It's being called a golden opportunity. House Republican leaders looking ahead to a Trump presidency have already begun to map out a very ambitious agenda, kind of a blueprint for early next year. At the top of their to-do list is a complete overhaul of the U.S. tax system, all 75,000 pages. This is something the GOP has been advocating and planning for decades. Art Laffer's been doing that. He is a former Reagan economic advisor and Trump supporter. You know, Art, for the first time in decades, really, the stars are in alignment for real, meaningful change. I'd just like to know, is there anything that could stop it now? We've got the Republicans controlling the House, the Senate, and, of course, the White House. They've said this is going to be top on their agenda. Is there anything Democrats could do to stop it?
I don't think so, but you know, we've got the governorships and the state legislature, shortly the Supreme Court, and shortly the Fed. You know, this is the grand conjunction. This is the moment in time and space when we can really do something. And the House has already, with Brady and with Ryan, has already gone huge distances in preparing the groundwork and working out the details. You've got Ted Cruz in the Senate, who's worked out a lot as well. This is our moment, and I think we're going to really shine.
Now, I mentioned the 75,000 pages. We could show the piles of page after page. Most Americans, of course, don't have to deal with that much, but they do have to deal with more than they think is necessary. Are average Americans going to see a simplification out of this process? Are they going to finally be able to get rid of their accountant and do their taxes themselves?
Yeah, I think they're going to have to be a little patient. I mean, first place, it takes time for a tax bill to get through all the committees, get all the stuff and done that, and then be signed. Then they implement it over time. So it takes time on the first bill. But the real killer comes, in '86, we did the final bill, which was the great one. We reduced the number of brackets from 14 to 2. 28 and 15% were the two tax rates. We got rid of these deductions, exemptions, exclusions, loopholes. It led to the greatest prosperity ever. And that's the one. I mean, this is a long process. It's a marathon. Please don't make it a sprint. It's not a sprint. But the House has done a great job in preparing the groundwork for all of this.
Well, it sounds like a lot of people want to make it a sprint, Art, including Paul Ryan and Donald Trump. This is one thing that those two guys really agree on, come together on. Is it conceivable that by the time most Americans do their taxes in April 2017, they're going to have a much simpler, much lower tax rate to deal with?
I think it's going to be very difficult to do that for the year 2016.
2017.
Yeah, but that's when they file their returns.
Tax year 2016, gotcha.
Tax year 2016. I mean, we have all of our tax laws already in place. It's almost the end of the year. I don't know how they can do it retroactively. Now, we did a little bit retroactive with Reagan. We had a 1.25% cut retroactively in 1981, but that's very tough. And it'll be even tough to do much in 2017 because this stuff does take time. But, you know, slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'd much rather have it done carefully and deliberatively and purposefully and have it work for 1,000 years than put it in a rush and have it fall apart in 2 years.
Well, you know the process. That's one reason you're a great asset in this. The supply side effect of this, that's what the Laffer curve is all about.
Yes, sir.
The economists, most of the mainstream economists who've looked at this tax plan say it's going to cost a lot of money because we're going to get, the government's going to get much fewer revenues, therefore the deficit and the debt are going to go up, as if they cared about that over the past 10 years.
They never have.
But what happened in the 1980s with Ronald Reagan, tax rates, as you mentioned, came down tremendously, and didn't revenues actually double? I mean, they got so much more revenue because there was so much more growth, right?
Yes, they did, and especially in the highest income brackets where we had the biggest tax cuts, those groups way increased their payment. I mean, if I remember correctly, the amount paid as a share of GDP in 1980 was about 1.5% of GDP by the top 1%. By 2006, it was 3.2% of GDP, and GDP had gone through the ceiling. So it was really works on the highest income earners, which is where these, what you call mainstream, I sort of call them kooks. But you know, but where they say it doesn't work, of course it works there, and it works there the most. But don't forget, when you take over a company that's been run into the ground, David, you know, it's lost its productive capacity, it's lost its good employees, it's lost its market share. You got to cut prices, which means tax rates. You've got to do infrastructure spending to get your capital stock back up, and then you got to get it going. So it will take some deficit, some investment in the period, but don't believe for a moment this won't lead to 25 years of huge prosperity, just like Reagan's did.
Final question.
Yes, sir.
The irony of this, you have a president-elect who's a guy who's taken advantage of every single tax loophole there is in his business, which he brags about. He says, why should it proves that I'm smart, that I take advantage of it.
That's exactly
legal.
right.
He says he's going to get rid of the loopholes that helped him become a billionaire. There are a lot of businesses that depend on those loopholes, that look forward to the loopholes. They're going to put up a lot of resistance. Is there anything that they would win on that worries you?
No, the one thing I love about Donald Trump on this is he knows what the loopholes are. He knows where they are, what they do, and he therefore knows how to get rid of them. He knows what type of distortions they cause, how many lawyers, accountants, deferred income specialists, and favor grabbers you got to hire to take advantage of those. He knows how to make the system fair and competitive, which is just what we need, David. I mean, and he would have been a billionaire even under fair conditions. He just takes advantage of the loopholes, just like everyone else does and should. I mean, the Supreme Court made it very clear there's nothing wrong with using all of the advantages you can in the tax code to make money.
Gotcha.
And we just got to make it even.
We got to leave it there. Art Laffer, the most
wonderful.
optimistic man in the universe, I think it's fair to say. Good to see you, my friend. Still ahead.